Hi, I'm Auntie Dawn. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making bunny French toast. No, the French toast isn't made out of bunnies. It's made out of a loaf of bread that when you slice it, looks like the outline of a bunny rabbit. Here's a rustic loaf from my favorite bakery, and you can see the profile of it. And so when I cut it, it's going to look like a bunny. It's a nice light loaf, even though it's made with whole wheat flour. So before I start cooking, I like to make sure I've got my butter out. Mine always lives on the counter, but if you don't usually keep your butter out, it's a good thing to get it out in advance. You want nice soft butter that melts easily on the hot French toast. The other pre-prep step is to get out your maple syrup and pour it into the serving container. And I'm going to put this in the microwave, so when I'm almost done cooking up the French toast, it'll be ready to get nice and hot. So my first step is to slice up the loaf. So I'm going to take a thin slice off the end, and then I like to have them most of an inch thick. And here you can see the bunny shape. So I bought this loaf about 3 days ago, and it's getting nice and dry. And that is a good thing because then it absorbs lots of the custard. Makes a very nice slice of French toast. Ah, there's a good one. Bunny. I prefer to use a slicer over a bread knife for this because a bread knife leaves a pretty rough surface on the bread. A smooth surface means the whole surface gets browned when you cook it. And there we go. Next, I'm going to make the custard. So the custard is a mix of eggs and milk. I use hemp milk, which I find gives a nice rich flavor and a good browning to the French toast. So I'm going to break 4 eggs into a bowl with a nice flat bottom. If you use a round bottom bowl, it can be pretty challenging to get the French toast fully submerged. Now I'm going to beat the eggs. When they're most of the way beaten, I'm going to add a pinch of salt and beat it some more. I want these to be thoroughly beaten. Okay, now that it's nicely beaten, I'm going to start to add my milk. Start by adding a little bit. One, because this box is almost empty. But 2, if you add a whole bunch of milk all at once, the egg can kind of run away from it. So this is a little easier. Just add it a bit at a time. And you want plenty of this custard. All right, at this point, I'm going to add a pinch of cinnamon. This is not going to make it taste cinnamony. There's not enough of it for that, but it adds a bit of richness. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of my milk. Okay, that'll do. Okay, now that I've gotten out my griddle and put it on the stovetop, I've opened a window. I'm going to turn on the vent fan and turn on the heat under both of the burners under here. I've turned them both to the low side of medium. So as you can see, the burner in the back is lower. It's a smaller burner, and so I'm going to want to turn it up just a little bit. So I'm lining things up so that I've got my bread slices over here, my custard here, the griddle, and then the plate that's going to hold the finished pieces of French toast. So I've got a little assembly line. When this starts to heat up, I'm going to use a spatula to add just a little bit of butter. This is clarified butter, so it'll have less of a tendency to burn. And I want this to be basically pancake temperature. So when a drop of water drops on it, it starts to sizzle and bounce around. All right. While this finishes heating up, I'm going to grab the first slice that I made, the small one, because it's the hardest one and it's going to take the longest to soak. So what I do is get it in and turn it around on both sides and poke at it with the fork. That helps to get the custard in. All right, let's check that temperature. Nope, not yet. When this bread is a couple days old, it makes the best French toast. It's funny we call this dish French toast in English. The French name for it translates as lost bread, and there's controversy about whether that means that it's bread that was going to be lost, that is, it's going stale, or that it's a dish for people who are traveling. It's very simple to make, but a delicious breakfast and a good way to stretch a few eggs into a big breakfast. Now let's check that heat level again. Yes, there we go. It's splattering in a most dangerous way. And when it stops, I can start to add my slices. Okay. There we go. As you can see, the amount that it drips along the way is another good reason to get the slices as close to the griddle as I can. And I especially want to get the fork in here at the tip of the bunny ears because that's the part that dries out the most. So while the first round of French toasts are cooking, hopefully this will be the only round. That's why I like to use a big griddle for this, because they don't hold particularly well. When they get cold, the texture just never really recovers. But you want to have everything else you're going to want if you're going to make yourself a pot of tea or anything. You want to get that done while this is cooking, because if the French toast has to wait, it'll get cold and just be not nearly as much fun to eat. Pressing it down so it fully adheres. So exactly how much custard to make is a little hard to judge because it depends a lot on how much the bread is going to absorb, and that depends both on the bake, which you're not going to be able to tell till you cut it open, and how much it's dried out, which depends on like how dry it's been in your kitchen. So you want to make sure that all of these holes get filled with custard so that it penetrates all the way into the inside of the slice. There we go. Now you can go on. And you can see this last slice, I sliced a little bit awkwardly, so we'll see how it goes. I don't have a whole lot of custard left here either, so this will probably be a suboptimal slice. Will be the last one we eat. If we're hungry enough, it was good enough. Just get a little more milk onto this. This is not really what you want to do, but for an emergency maneuver. Okay, let's see about flipping these guys. Yeah, let's see that. All right. You want them to be nice and brown when you flip them over. There we go. That's what we want. And I'm rubbing them around just so they pick up that ghee, so they get as nice and browning as they can. I'm going to leave this one alone. It went on so much after the other ones that it's going to be a bit behind. You can reuse that bread plate to eat off of, because unless you manage to get raw egg on it, it's all good. So I'm going to get out a couple of ramekins. It's what we're going to pour our syrup into. I'm going to put them here on the stovetop so they get a little warm, so that when you put the hot syrup in, it doesn't cool down, because hot syrup is the glory of breakfast breads like pancakes, waffles, French toast. But cold maple syrup, I know in the commercials they show you like the big old slab of cold butter and pouring cold syrup on it, but this is just one more way that the commercial reality is not the optimal food reality. Okay, so you can see that's nice and brown on bottom, so I'm going to remove it. I'm going to just check them. If they have any white patches like this, it's a good idea to press down on that part, because raw egg is really unpleasant. There we go. And again, you can see some of that cooked pit pulled away, so I'm going to give that just another minute. And then, oh, nice brown on that one. Let's see, little bunny. this is probably, yes, nice and browned. You can see it's a little funky. It's never going to be as nice as the other slices, but if you dip it in enough syrup, it'll do. Okay, since they're almost done, I'm going to get the syrup heating up. Maple syrup is sugar syrup, and so it tends to boil up. So I try to microwave it in short increments, about 30 seconds at a time. All right, there's one more. You are done. All right, so now I'm going to turn off the burner that's up here because there's nothing there to be cooked anymore. It's just going to bake on everything that escaped. I've given this 30 seconds. I'm going to shake it up a little bit to distribute the heat and give it another 15. And that's nice and hot. And there's the last piece. And here's my finished French toast. So I've got a little bit of butter in my ramekin. Pour the hot syrup over, and you can see it just melting. Use my fork. I hope you enjoy this bunny French toast as much as I do. See you next time.